hear me? Okay. All right. Well, if I can keep the wind out of my face so I can read my notes, we'll be lucky. So, as I was reading and probably scrolling, I won't admit that to those of you who don't like tech, but Ty knows. So I was looking and I saw this thing came across and it said 11 annoying habits of old people. Well, not wanting to be annoying and yet wanting to remain relevant and desirable to be around, I read them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Talking about the past. I do it all the time. It's one of my favorite things to do, so thank you this morning for giving me a chance to do it. What old people like to do. So I'm going to read the minutes of organization because that's the tradition. When I turn my head, can you still hear me? Can you hear me? My head turned? Because I can't hear me. I can hear me here, but not here. Okay. So, Pastor, I'm just not used to microphones.
No, you're good. You're good. Okay. Just straight on. Straight on.
All right. So, I will start reading it, and I call Pastor. Pastor usually has really good ideas about what to do. And so I said to him, well, I think I'll talk about the cemetery. And he goes, okay, because the cemetery is 99 years old, but that's later. And then I got thinking, and so I'm going to introduce you to some new additions to the traditional reading of the minutes. So this was my idea, and you know, I'm an old person, so today I get to talk about the past. So here you go. The Burton School, meaning the schoolhouse, is 106 years old. So they met in the schoolhouse first. They didn't have the church. The church is only as old as me, which is 84 years old. So, August 21st, 1927, following the regular Sunday school services, Mr. V.A. Vanderhoof, Cole Porter missionary for Arizona, who preached the sermon, called a business session of the Baptists present, stating that the organization of the Baptist Church was being considered and that nominations for a moderator were in order. Okay, I didn't take my magic pill, and Chris, I realized it when you started crying. I'm like, oh man, I forgot to take my magic pill. So, you guys are gonna have to bear with me after a little church in the Wildwood, and the tears, whew. Okay, so I'm gonna stay, we'll see if I can. Mr. C.B. Pennington moved, Stuart Burton seconded the motion that Reverend L.H. Shuttlesworth act as moderator. It was unanimously carried. V.A. Vanderhoof was elected secretary of the meeting. M.S. Burton moved that we proceed with the organization of the Baptist Church. Motion seconded by Leo Rich. Motion carried. The following persons presented themselves for membership with their letters from other Baptist churches. Mr. L.H. and Mrs. Shuttlesworth. Mr. and Mrs. C.B. Pennington. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. L.H. Shuttlesworth. L.H. Shuttlesworth, first founding pastor of the church. You'll find out they elected him later in these meetings. Probably the closest thing to a grandfather that my generation of Carlisle had. My father was an orphan, and Shuttlesworth's wife was his mother's sister. So he raised 2 of the Carlisle kids and brought one of them to Arizona. So Phyllis and Benny, who unfortunately married into the Carlisles, and now they have to be part of the clan. And then we have Lindsay and Natalie, 5th generation. We have, and Haley and Matt, 5th generation. Hunter, 6th generation. Wow. And Levi and Abby, they're not here, are they? Oh yeah, there you are. Okay, Levi and Abby, 5th generation. Evangeline, 6th generation of L.H. Shuttlesworth's great nieces and nephews. So great, and so on. So, when I read their names, you will stand up. Let's see, I think that's when I read them. Let me double check. Yeah, so, L.H. Shuttlesworth, your names were just called. Up to do. Up. Come on, Carlisles. There you are. Benjamin, you can't stand up, but he's right over here. He married in, and he's put up with us for 60 some odd years. All right, where's Levi? Okay, so He didn't know he married into such a bunch, did he? We should have warned him, huh? Okay, thanks. You guys can sit down. Mr. and Mrs. C.B. Pennington. C.B. Pennington. So I thought, I know who the Penningtons are. They used to come and visit. They lived here somewhere and their kids went to school, and that's all I could find out about them. Lovely Baptist family, and they probably have, people somewhere. We'll just, if we ever find them, we'll add them to this. Okay, Mrs. Sylvester, Edna Sylvester. Okay, Sylvester. Does that ring a bell there, Gerald? Grandma Rhoda's sister and her family. So when they say Sylvester, you're going to have to stand up. You and Betty and Darlene, and are there any other Hendersons here? Okay, so she's a member, so up get. The Sylvesters. There we go. And then Sidney J. Carlisle. You can sit down, Henderson's. Carlisle's up again. Thank you very much. It's a tradition. I started. Thank you. You can sit down. Their letters were read, and then the following persons were presented themselves for membership on promise of a letter. In other words, they were members of other churches, but they had to be. M.S. Burton, you recognize that name. He camped at the cemetery. And the guy, the A-frame as you come in, the guy that lived there, his name was Littleton Perkins. He named this community Burton because Mr. Burton camped up there. Leo Rich, if you ever been to my house, that's where he lived first. That was his homestead. J.M. Henderson and Mrs. R. Henderson, D.M. Sylvester, Vernon Sylvester, get Sylvesters, was your auntie, your great auntie, thank you. All right, thank you. Mrs. Jewel Rich, that'd be us, she was a Williams, as in Carlisle.
You might as well just stay.
Yes. Okay, thank you. The following then were received for baptism: Stuart Burton, Daisy Burton, Mrs. William Malone. Sorry, Carlisle's, up you get. She was a Williams. And thank you, and then Mrs. Leo Rich. Okay, C.B. Pennington then moved, and J.W. Henderson seconded the motion that 13 members together with their 4 other after baptism would constitute the Baptist Church, and it was carried. It was then voted that the name, the Burton Baptist Church, would be the name of the church. So nothing's changed. The church covenant was read, and the articles of faith were read by Mrs. V.A. Vanderhoof. C.B. Pennington moved that both be adopted by the church. Mrs. Shuttlesworth seconded the motion. It was adopted. The meeting adjourned for lunch. A picnic lunch was spread, which was bountiful and greatly enjoyed by all. After lunch, the meeting was again called to order by the moderator, Reverend L.H. Shuttlesworth. After singing Why Not Now and prayers being offered by G.W. Jackson of Floyd, he was they called to the chair, and V.A. Vanderhoof offered prayer. I'm having trouble seeing with my glasses. Reverend Shuttlesworth retired while a pastor was being considered. He was shortly called back and informed that he had been unanimously chosen as pastor of the Burton Baptist Church. That's the tradition, unanimously chosen. He replied with a well-chosen acceptance speech. Mrs. M.S. Burton was elected church clerk and treasurer. The 3rd Sunday of each month was selected as the regular worship day. Pendleton's manual was selected as a guide to the business meetings. Would you like a copy of one of those?
Maybe do it right there.
The church voted to ask aid from the Arizona Baptist Convention in the amount of $25 a month to supplement the pastor's salary. Moved, seconded, and carried that the conference be continued on the 3rd Sunday in September, and all adjourned to the Leo Rich Tank, which is right out behind my house. If you ever want to see it, just come on over and we'll do a tour. And that's where Mr. and Mrs. Stuart Burton were baptized by Reverend L.H. Shuttlesworth. Opal Henderson was also, I don't know why that isn't listed here. She was also, that is local, and she was a Henderson. She's not, she's Gerald's aunt. I won't make you stand up for that. Okay, so the Sylvesters, I found out that they were living in Linden in 1926. And that's, I told you already, she's her sister. Oh, and the Lewis Hare boys were her boys. They were also charter members. And I can remember Lewis, they were young guys, like, you know, like our young guys that run around here, these young 17, 18, 19 somethings. And I remember their claim to fame was that Lewis Hare could out-eat anybody in church. That was your relative, Gerald. So you got a big tradition of all that.
Wow.
The Cunninghams lived in Linden, and I looked them up. I found them in some history books that I had. He was a carpenter, and Linden, you know, is an LDS community, so they were in the process of building their school and church also, and he helped them. And it was said right here in this history book how nice it was, but he was not an LDS, he was a Baptist, but he still helped them, which was notable in a history book. So I thought that was pretty nice. Okay, so the cemetery is, I will move on to my intended speech, which won't be very long. The cemetery is 99 years old. And you know, I don't know who wrote that book about the church, but somehow they forgot to have it put in the index, the cemetery word. So when you go looking in there for cemetery facts,
It's not there.
it's not there. So you have to like thumb through, but we do know the first person that was buried in the cemetery was Gertie Henderson. She would have been, that would have been your auntie, wouldn't she have been, their oldest daughter. And she died in July before the church was organized in August. So that family had quite a hit with their older daughter. The cause of death by Shuttlesworth and his kids, the Carlisle kids he raised, they said she had spinal meningitis, which would fit because she was a young teen, you know, in her late teens. That often hits them during that college age. So anyway, I remember Darlene talking about her mother saying that she had a high fever. I don't know. Anyway, in July of 1927, she was buried. So the cemetery actually was started right then, almost the same time as the church, which is what you need. You need to marry, as my dad said, you need to bury your young and bury your dead. So, but they had a cemetery. And what's interesting is, in the next 10 years, when the cemetery was 10 years old, there were 10 people buried in it. And they mainly are the mothers and fathers of these people that I've mentioned, either a mother-in-law, father-in-law. You recognize their last names if you look up there. There was a Malone, there was a Sylvester, and the old ones, as they passed away, they were put in that cemetery. I'm sorry to say that I only have word of mouth about where we got the cemetery. The land for the church, 10 acres, was given off the end of Uncle's. He bought the homestead where the A-frame is as you're coming in off from Lone Pine Dam. He had that, then that 160 acres came all the way up, not here, this is a different piece of land, but over by the church. And he gave 10 acres. And then, if you'll visualize it, in between the church, now the school was still government property because it was a school. So we didn't own that land for the cemetery. So it's rational that the Forest Service gave us some for a cemetery. So word of mouth is all I have. I don't have anything else, that's for sure. But I think you can probably take that one to the bank, or, you know, bluff it. People will probably believe you. And so in the 60s, the school closed, and then they sold all of that to us. That's why it's continuous property. And with this other 90 acres we own, that's a different story. So thank you for indulging me in my old person thing that I like to do. And do you want me to pray for the offering?
No.
No. Okay. Thank you very much.